Amanda, you're ready to go.
In 1 second. Can't even tell you how much. Okay, good morning, everybody. We're reading Yoga Sutras for our morning sadhana practice. And we're up to book 1, Sutra 50. And in the last sutra, we were talking about how the name of something doesn't do justice or give knowledge to the fullness of what that object can be. So in this sutra says the impression produced by this samadhi or full absorption with the actuality of the object wipes out all other impressions. The impression that results from the samadhi by which you get Ritambhara prajna will obstruct all other impressions. Everything dies away and there is no more coming back as an ordinary person, ignorant of your true nature. When you come to this stage, you always retain this knowledge. In this state, you become a Jivan Mukta, a realized saint. Jivan means one who lives. Mukta means liberated. So such a person is liberated living being. You live, eat, and talk like anybody else, even do business like anybody else, but still you are liberated. A Jivan Mukta may be doing anything. He or she need not be sitting in samadhi in some cave. This person may be in Times Square, but is still a Jivan Mukta. A Jivan Mukta is involved in the world for the sake of humanity without any personal attachment. And nothing is exciting to a Jivan Mukta. As a beautiful Tamil verse says, if he sees the cool rays in the broad daylight, or a 3-day-old corpse getting out of its coffin to walk, he will not wonder, oh, how could that be? Nothing will be exciting to the Jivan Mukta because he or she knows it's all phenomena of nature or prakriti. In the universe, many things happen, so the liberated ones won't worry about that. They will just take the golden present in hand and, prompted by the higher will, just do what they can and pass by. They will not be attached to anything. In that state, no impressions, no old thought will bring them back to ordinary life. Although they appear to be normal, the seeds of all mental impressions are completely burnt out, and they always live in that unattached state. Sutra 51, when even this impression is wiped out, every impression is totally wiped out, and there is nirbija, seedless samadhi. Only now does Patanjali describe the highest samadhi. Even with Ritambhara prajna, the subtle mind is there. There is still a division between the prajna or wisdom and the owner of that wisdom. Even the feeling I have realized universal consciousness should go. Then you are completely free. You have attained nirbija samadhi. There is no more birth or death for you. You realize your immortality. So it was something that we were saying yesterday, that before enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water, and after enlightenment, you chop wood and carry water. The point of this yoga practice is to get us into a space where things are perceived differently, even though our daily actions or rituals don't change. And in order to get to that space, we have to burn away all those old seeds. My teacher talks about this like in a forest, if there are tons of acorns that just scatter everywhere, and each one has all the potentiality of a gigantic tree in it, and they're all sitting on the ground, maybe going into the ground, just waiting for the perfect conditions to arise. Most of us on a daily basis are moving through life that way, where we have all these latent impressions, all these seeds that are waiting for the perfect conditions. We're waiting for the exact trigger that's going to remind us of that cascade, right? That neural cascade. It takes us back to whatever traumatized us or stressed us. And that big tree grows from there. And the trees usually comes with memories, with emotions, with reactions to the situation that we're encountering. So maybe then we don't even encounter the situation as it is. We encounter it through our own colored thoughts that are colored with addiction or aversion, right? Something we enjoy, we want to continue happening, or something that we hated, we don't want it to ever happen again. So we go through all the dance of trying to avoid the discomfort. And when they say, when you get to this point where you're experiencing samadhi, or you're experiencing a state of full absorption with the thing that you're meditating upon, the seeds start to burn away. It's like you can do all this meditation practice, and you might have noticed this for yourself. You get to a certain point where you're like, yeah, I'm feeling real good. I must be hitting a point of, yeah, I'm so calm all the time. I'm doing my meditation, I'm doing my yoga, everything's feeling great. And then all of a sudden, this really subtle thing is lying under there. And that person shows up and they're triggering you left and right, and you don't know what's going on. You say, well, I've become this yogi. What's happening? I'm supposed to be this way. It's not a negative thing. It's just a part of the process that the yogis were trying to lay out the roadmap for us towards enlightenment. They were saying, this is what can happen. If you don't handle those seeds, those impressions that you've created through not just this lifetime, but previous lifetimes too, you're going to get into trouble. You might not be able to perceive the world as it is. You're going to perceive it through your anxiety about the future, or your concerns or addictions to the past. So the enlightened being, he's saying not excited. It's not necessarily like an excited experience, right? That's his personal translation. I've read other translations where they say, you're just not bothered by it anymore. You can see the world, and it's not sending you to bed for 2 weeks. Because the world is material that we're living in, and we are spirit. We are consciousness observing and sort of navigating the material, and we have different properties, right? The material is due to death, decay, and impermanence, and that can cause a lot of suffering to the spiritual being who has confused it for itself, because we think it has the same properties as us. But they say when you get to this enlightened space, you realize that it's something different than you. You can alter it, you can participate with it, you can change it, but essentially you are something that is eternal and unchanging, and you've placed that expectation on other things. So when other things don't fulfill that equation, it causes us immense suffering, and it creates more impressions. So they say the goal of this whole first chapter is to get to this space, right? It's this first book. It's to get to this space of seedless awareness, where we've burnt away all those little acorns lying on the ground, and we've gotten to a place now where we can just be present, fully absorbed in every moment that we're in, seeing things as they are, not as we are. And that makes things less up and down all day long. It becomes a more equanimous existence. So Swami Gyanasvara talks about this, that the knowledge you gain from this first samadhi we talked about is commingled with testimony, or through inference, because it relates directly to the specifics of the object rather than the words or concepts. So we're starting to go deeper than just the label of something. Right? Labels get us in trouble because labels are just based on my past understanding of a thing. Like if I had a cat growing up, every time I think about cats, I'm gonna reference back to that original cat. Like if I had a real nasty cat that would scratch the crap out of me every time I saw it, I would think all cats are awful. If I had a very cute, sweet, cuddly cat, anytime I heard about cats, I would have good feelings inside, right? Those are all impressions that are making it where I can't even see the current cat that's in front of me. That's a silly example, but knowledge tends to be commingled like that. So as you get to this samadhi, which is this special yogic power, you can really understand or get knowledge of the object in a pure way without it being commingled with this other. It's unencumbered by your previous understanding of it. And this comes from an experience of non-attachment, right? Because attachment means I'm attached to the ideas that I used to have, and they're making it where I perceive the world now through those attachments, right? So then we're getting even deeper, and truth is what starts to really burn away latent impressions in the mind field. So those samskaras is what the yogis call it. If you want to not have those acorns grow into trees, you have to burn them. It's like when you have a coffee bean, if you want to make some coffee, you first cook up the bean, right? You roast it, and then you make your coffee. But you can't take that bean then afterwards and plant it in the ground and have a tree come, because it's burnt. Nothing will grow from it. So the same thing happens when we really apply truth to all of the impressions that we've had in the past. It doesn't mean that we're becoming like a robot when he says we're not excited anymore. It just means that our perception changes to a way that doesn't throw us off as much. And these constant fluctuations are what are causing us so much profound suffering. And all this is dealt through the meditation and contemplation practices. So even when these latent impressions from truth-filled knowledge recede along with the other impressions, then there's an objectless concentration. So when you get to these higher points in yoga practice, you can get addicted to the goodness that you feel. You can get addicted, like if you hit the bliss layer, it's bliss beyond ideas of happiness or sadness. It's bliss beyond the mind. There's nothing external of you that's going to bring this bliss. It's something that bubbles up from inside of you. So if we hit that layer, you can think, oh yeah, now I've made it. Now I'm here, now I'm enlightened. But the yogis say, no, there's still a deeper place to go to get to the center of consciousness, to get to the center of self. You've just become addicted to this more subtle thing. So it's the same when we get to this place where we can start to perceive reality as it is. That's even a state that you can get addicted to that will be an encumbrance on the path to the real goal, which is to absorb with the real consciousness, to exist as your true self. That's all yoga is trying to get us back to our original nature. So we have to leave it all behind. And we have to really practice non-attachment. And non-attachment, we always teach, is different than detachment. Right? Detachment is I want a thing, but I'm not going to let myself have it. Non-attachment is I'm so filled up with something else that I don't need anything else. So it's a natural thing that arises when we do the practices of yoga. And it happens over time in stages and waves. So we can't expect to push it in the direction we want. We have to just have faith in the practices. So that's my spiel. And you guys can join in on your commentary. Oh, is everybody muted? No. Yes. Okay.
All right, you're all back on. It's all easier said than done.
I mean,
it's
there's nothing to ask about or talk about for me. It just sounds like a fairy tale. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that as in I could reach and reach and reach, but it's always going to be a little bit out of reach. And so I guess just move on, for me.
Something my teacher always says is he's like, maybe, all this, when you get into the really heavy stuff, maybe it's not true, but as you're doing the practices on the way over, you certainly gain some benefit by doing them. So what's the harm? He said,
Right, exactly.
What's the harm? Yeah, so.
I feel like move on because, oh, well, that's over there, but here you are, move on.
That's actually a very equanimous state to be in, right? Because if we're thinking, I need to find alignment, you may never get there because it's another addiction. So good attitude.
Okay.
Oh, good morning, Adriana, just so you pop in.
He's muted.
Morning. Yeah, I mean, it speaks for itself, these two, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to have, what is it? Like the showing up for it all that allows everything else to unfold. Like, speaking for myself, the way I feel, like everything, if I had to be quarantined 8 years ago, I think one of us would have to move out of this house, and I don't know what I would do with the kids, because it would be really, really hard, to the point where it would probably be really, really bad. Yet, for the most part, I've had two really bad days and sick, and it wasn't as bad as it would have been back then. And that's the practice of burning, and there's always more stuff to burn. Like I remember a lot of things from yoga teacher training. Like, I taught that I had worked out all this stuff with my dad, and then my yoga teacher training, every yama and niyama ended up being my dad. And I was like, you think you've gotten rid of it all, and it just keeps coming back up. But I think being able to have the practice and the awareness and the tools and all of that together makes it a lot easy to just process and let stuff go. And really, like, I always used to say, well, it is what it is. But back then, it is what it is was just really still being frustrated and angry. And now it is what it is really more being able to accept and to really let go and move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like that truth burning away. Yeah, there's like a very different perception and experience when you hit that point. I agree about the whole quarantine thing. Mark may not be alive. Yeah, it's been, because you're with all your stuff, and you're with all of everybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
It's an interesting experiment.
Oh God.
Yeah.
But, the letting go isn't letting go of the thing or the event or the experience. It's the letting go of some of the emotional weight that's with it. That's the letting go. Because you can't change what happened, what you grew up with, what you did, It's the letting go of, for me, it's the letting go of the punishment aspects of it. I'm still not at the point where I want to let go of the joyous aspects of it. So I'm still addicted, but it's the punishment aspects that are a little bit easier to handle now.
Right. Same here. I don't beat myself up over things as much.
Yeah, as much.
As much as I used to. I still do, but not as much. I catch myself. I put it that way. I catch myself as I start it, and I can kind of stop myself mid-flow, or even before it starts. I can stop myself and recognize what it is I'm doing, and breathe, and look at it from a different angle, and that's like life transforming. So I don't get that same stomachache. That's what would happen to me. I would get stomachache. I don't get the same stomachache over things, although I still do, and that's a sign for me that I haven't kind of looked at something, but I don't get it as often as I used to, because I'm more aware. And I have tools, like Micheline said, I have tools when I recognize, excuse me, when I recognize that I'm stepping into that zone. I have tools to step away from it. I get onto the yoga mat, or I go for a walk, or I breathe. I just sit and and do some breath work. And that makes all the difference.
Something I was talking to Adriana about, I think last week, made me realize that if I didn't have these tools, Amanda, I would have quit like a week after I started dealing with mind body. I was telling Adriana, I said, mind body is, you know, those, when you walk some
software
museums.
that we use for the back end of everything.
Right.
So yeah, so I explained to Adriana, I said, you know, you walk into a mirror, like those hallways with mirrors, where you see like 1,000 of you. Well, mind body, I make one mistake, forget to click a little box, comes back at me like those reflections. It just keeps going. So the way I used to be before, there's no way I would have beat up my, like, I still feel bad, but I don't go into that place. And there's no way I would be able to do it. Like, cause every time you make a little mistake, it just comes at me like 1,000 times and it shows up everywhere.
I saw an article a while back about how business owners, entrepreneurs tend to have like secret depression that nobody's aware of. And I always think about that because like with the amount of stuff that you have to just encounter on a daily basis and be equanimous about, if you didn't have any tools, it makes total sense how someone could get taken down, you know, because like every little thing gets nitpicked by so many different people, you know. I mean, we're lucky in our community that most of our community is pretty understanding and like patient with us and compassionate. But you know, I have a lot of friends who own a lot of different kinds of businesses, and it's no different. It's no different in any industry. It's no different in any business. There's always going to be mistakes. There's always going to be someone upset. There's always going to be something that, you know, got messed up along the way. And it's like, if you can have, it's not indifference, but it's like, if you can just say, okay, I made a mistake, or okay, this person made a mistake and I got to eat it, you know, like, how can I survive it without destroying myself in the process? Like, okay, on to the next moment. How do we proactively fix it? And like this whole thing with the pandemic and like running a business, as Micheline knows, it's like, it's not that different than the daily like upsets and craziness of running a business. Like most people are like, oh my God, like what are business owners doing right now? Like, is everything gonna fail? Are you like having a nervous breakdown? It's like every single day is like the house is burning down and you're just putting out fires. And that's every single business owner I know, right, Micheline? Like that's what it feels like some days. And it's like, if you could put out the fire and not set yourself on fire, I think that's a superpower that yoga definitely gives. Like I wish every other business owner had yoga practice right now. I wish everyone in a relationship had a yoga practice right now, and everybody who's going through this insane time had a yoga practice right now, because I think there's just always insane times, and it just gets more and more insane. It's just the material world. It's like everyone's going through something. Everyone's going through a personal hell in some way or another. It's like, that's just the material world. How do we deal with it? Yeah. And mind body makes it extra special. But you do a great job, Micheline.
Well, you do a great job not making sure I don't get beat down.
You too. And Megan too.
Yeah.
Well, here's a business opportunity though, rewriting that software, because it sounds awful.
You know what? Many have tried, but they have a monopoly, so I don't think it's gonna happen. They're smart. They're real smart.
Oh dear.
Not in the ways we need them to be, but you know, anyway. I shouldn't speak so ill of mind body, right? But
Snuck into our meditation mornings.
yeah, anyway, any other thoughts about your experience of sort of like dealing with the subtle layers, how they've shown up for you?
I have one last thing to say, and that is something that you referred to earlier on, and that is this whole thing helps you to see the difference between what you are filtering reality through and to get a little bit closer to what the actual situation might be. and then to deal with that. And it is such a relief those few times that I am aware of when that's happened, such a sense of relief, like, wow, I'm not locked in that thing. In this instance, and that's it. Now, if I could only feel that sense of relief about my bangs that are getting longer and longer, and I can't see now.
Just gonna have to be real acrimonious and have to cut them. That's all. Cut them out.
Ah,
Yeah. You just go like this.
no, I've done that. I think I was 8 years old.
Well, good luck with that. All right, let's move into some breath work. So let's start with alternate nostril breathing. You can take your hand and your peace fingers into the center of the palm, closing off the right nostril with the thumb and the left nostril with the ring finger. Inhaling deeply through both, exhaling through both. Close off the right nostril with the thumb, inhale through the left. Close off both sides, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Closing off both, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Closing off both, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Closing off both, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Closing off both, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Closing off both, exhale through the left. Continue like this. Feel free to add locks at the top of the breath. When you're done, you'll exhale at the left side. Placing the hands on the knees, we'll inhale deeply and exhale deeply. Inhale halfway, and we'll go for some bellows breath. Exhale forcefully from the diaphragm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. 30 rounds. Inhale all the way. Retain the breath. Squeeze in through the pelvic floor, pull the belly in, tuck the chin, turn the eyes up, and exhale all the way out. Inhale and exhale. One more time, we'll inhale halfway, and then 30. Inhale all the way. Retain the breath. Exhale all the way out. Start to breathe naturally. And then you'll move through your variation of the meditation practice. This could be observing the body and trying to relax it, scanning the body from head to root, back up again. It could be making the breath very serene without pause, break, or shakiness. It could be starting to observe the thoughts in the mind without getting attached, just watching them go by. It could be, once you get good at that, observing a single thought and deciding, is this leading me towards a sense of freedom or bondage, and start to favor the ones that are leading you towards a sense of freedom. Or if you have any other meditation practice, a mantra practice, anything that you're working with, a recorded practice, then you can come to that now. can bring the hands to prayer at the center of the chest, bowing the head.